Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Something shifted under the AI market this month, and almost nobody running a company noticed, because the headlines were busy arguing about who is allowed to use the most powerful American models. Here's what I will give you in the next 8 minutes. The single most important number in enterprise AI this quarter, a Chinese model that just matched the best American one at a fifth of the price, and a theft case now headed for the Senate floor, and then exactly what I would do about all three before your next budget review. We are going to read the week one way today. While Washington spent June deciding which companies are trusted enough to touch the newest American AI, the rest of the world quietly stopped waiting. It switched to China's. The control story you keep hearing has a punchline, and the punchline is that the customer's already left. Start with the number, because it is the one I would write on the whiteboard. There is a marketplace called OpenRouter. Think of it as the place developers go to route their software through whichever AI model they choose, the way a travel site routes you through whichever airline is cheapest that morning. It publishes which models actually get used. A year ago, the three big American labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, were about 72% of the traffic running through it. This month, they are 33%. Chinese models now hold 6 of the top 10 spots. The reason is not patriotism, and it is not politics. It is the invoice. DeepSeek, a Chinese AI lab whose model is inconveniently for everyone genuinely good, charges roughly 44 cents to process 1 million words of input. Anthropic's flagship charges about $5 for the same. That is not a discount. That is a different category of spending. One AI startup, Lindy, moved 100% of its traffic off Anthropic and onto DeepSeek and said the savings run into the millions. Here is why that matters to you specifically. Picture a $300 million distributor in Ohio that quietly put AI into its customer service last year. Nobody on that board approved a China strategy, but somewhere in that company is a capable engineer who has already done this math, because a 9-to-1 price gap does not ask the CEO for permission. It just shows up next quarter as a cloud bill that got smaller, and a vendor nobody in the boardroom can pronounce that got bigger. Give the American labs credit for one thing, and I mean it. They built the frontier. Every one of these cheaper models learned in a world the American labs paid in billions to create. That is real, and it is worth saying plainly. It is also, as we are about to see, the heart of the fight, because the gap that was supposed to justify the premium just narrowed to almost nothing. This week, a Chinese lab called Zhipu released a model named GLM 5.2. On a respected test of how well a model can act as an agent, meaning handle a multi-step task on its own, not just answer one question, GLM 5.2 landed within a single point of Anthropic's Opus 4.8, the model widely considered the best in the world at that job, at roughly a fifth of the cost. And here is the part that should hold your attention. GLM 5.2 is open weight. That means you do not rent it through somebody else's website. You download it and run it on your own servers behind your own firewall. Open weight is the difference between renting your headquarters and owning it. The landlord cannot raise your rent, and the landlord cannot change the locks. For most of you, that does not mean ripping out what you have tomorrow. But if you run a regulated business, healthcare, financial services, anything where your data legally cannot leave the building, a frontier-grade model you completely control just went from a thing your IT team wished for to a thing your IT team can download this afternoon. That moves the build versus buy line, and it quietly moves your leverage with every vendor currently quoting you a price. Now, the uncomfortable part, and it is the reason this is a Senate matter and not only a market one. You might assume catching up this fast is just good engineering. Some of it surely is. But Anthropic has gone on the record alleging that some of it was theft. In a letter to the Senate, Anthropic says one Chinese lab tied to Alibaba ran roughly 25,000 fake accounts and pulled nearly 28.8 million conversations out of Claude, Anthropic's model, over about 6 weeks, for a single purpose: to copy what Claude knows how to do. The technique even has a name. It is called distillation, training your cheaper model on a smarter model's answers until the cheaper one absorbs the skill. Alibaba denies it. The figures are Anthropic's, and they have not been independently confirmed, but as of last weekend, 2 senators, one from each party, are moving to attach an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, the must-pass annual defense bill, that would let Washington sanction any foreign company caught doing exactly this. It is early, and an amendment like that may not survive into the final bill. The direction, though, is the news. So sit with the shape of it. The cheapest, most accessible AI on the market may have been built in part on capability siphoned quietly through an ordinary login screen. And the thing that got siphoned, a model's behavior captured through normal everyday usage, is something your own company may be giving away every time your AI product answers a customer. Your API is a front door. It is also, it turns out, a window. Here is my read. The story of the year was supposed to be who controls AI. The real story is that control and cost just walked off in opposite directions, and your business lives in the space between them. The most powerful models are getting locked behind government approval and premium pricing. The good enough models are getting cheaper, more open, and far harder to govern. And a few of them now carry a question mark about how they got so good so fast. Your budget will pull you toward the cheap open end. Your risk officer will pull you toward the safe sanctioned end. Pretending you do not have to choose is the one option that is not on the table. One honest caution, because I do not want you to hear everything is cheaper, go switch. Cheaper is not the same as switchable. The real lock-in in AI stopped being the model a while ago. It is the context around the model, the data you have connected to it, the workflows you have wired through it, the permissions you have granted it. You can swap a model in an afternoon. You cannot swap 2 years of accumulated context that fast. So if I were sitting in your seat this quarter, I would do 2 things. First, ask for one number at your next review. What share of our AI spend runs on which vendor and from which country? Most CEOs cannot answer that today. The ones who can are negotiating from a much stronger chair. Second, treat portability as a design requirement, not a someday project. Build so that changing models is a setting you flip, not a building you demolish. David Ha, who runs an AI lab called Sakana, put the principle better than I can. Access to the top models can disappear overnight. So the practical hedge is never betting the company on one. On Monday, we talked about the forces acting on your business from the outside, your clients grading you, criminals cloning you. This is the third one, and it is the quietest of the 3. Your suppliers reorganized the entire market underneath you while the press argued about who was in charge. The model you run is no longer a technical detail. It is a statement about who you trust, what you will pay, and what you are willing to depend on. That used to be a procurement footnote. This quarter, it is a strategy decision that is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Tuesday, June 30th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back Wednesday with more. Until then, stay sharp.